It's not a matter of if it will happen. It's a matter of if you will keep at it until it does. And I really believe that like if you want something and you don't give up, it will happen. We don't have to know exactly how, but if you know that that's what you want and then you just lean into whatever those superpowers are.
Welcome to the Headsmack Podcast, where we have candid conversations with misfits and mavericks, those not afraid to stand up and stand out, the dreamers and the doers, the ones who've stumbled, fumbled, and then soared. Here we delve into the inspiring journeys and pivotal aha moments that have shaped their worlds. And maybe through sharing their adventures, you'll get hit with a head smack that'll change your destiny. Hey, welcome to the Headsmack Podcast. My name is Povolni. I am so excited to have a misfit with me today called Marley Jaxx. And Marley, it is so good to have you on. Welcome.
Hello, proud misfit here.
Proud misfit. Marley is an award-winning filmmaker and globally recognized expert in video production, YouTube growth, content strategy, and is the go-to consultant for top industry leaders. And so I'm excited to talk to her about YouTube, talk a little bit about cancel culture, talk a little bit about controversy that she did in promoting that and getting her documentary
So scandalous.
out. It's so scandalous, so scandalous. So, Marley, talk to me a little bit. Let's go ahead and start with your origin story. What was young Marley like, and how did you get going into what you're doing now? Where did you start from?
Young Marley. You know, I just posted this on Facebook the other day that when I was a kid, I printed out the American national anthem and I hung it on my wall in my bedroom so I could learn it. So that I dreamt of one day living in America. I was in Canada at this time. I grew up in Canada. And I wanted to live in America because I wanted to be closer to Hollywood. I wanted to be closer to the movies. And so I started out in my career actually working in radio and television. And then that was, at the time, I don't think that I was mature enough for it. I think there's a lot of egos in the industry that I didn't really know how to handle. And so it didn't. After that, I went into dental, which is total switch and very boring, not very creative at all for a creative person. And I found myself doing the social media for the dental office every day just for fun. And then next thing I know, they referred me to some of their other business friends, and all of a sudden I had a business, and I didn't really know what I was doing it. So I joined these Facebook groups and I bought some courses to learn. And then from there I started doing making videos for my social media clients, which was like, oh, I'm like making movies for entrepreneurs, shifted into just solely mastering YouTube. I used to fly all over the country in America to film my clients' content. We'd film 6 months of content in 3 days, and then I would produce it over the next little bit. And then after the pandemic, that shifted, that clients would fly to me. And then that shifted into more of like me consulting with clients and becoming we call it a chief content officer, where we, are strategizing all their content and how to turn that into leads and monetization.
So when you say you were creative, creative, for some people, they think, well, I'm not really a creative because I don't draw pictures. But when you say you're a creative, in what way did you find yourself creative?
It's funny you say that, because that's totally what I used to think. When I was younger, if someone said, you're creative, I'd be like, no, I'm not. I don't draw. I don't do pictures, whatever. Don't paint. I couldn't. I don't think that I have that skill in my body at all. But my creativity is storytelling, is communication, expression, and my medium is often through video. And then later in life, I fell in love with writing, and I had a blog for some time. And it's really just, it almost feels like I'm writing for myself, that it is this expression or this, I don't know, it's just it's therapeutic, it's cathartic. And then when you share that with other people, that they also resonate with that, or they are entertained by it. And ultimately it's creativity is connected with other people through some kind of an emotion, whether it's sadness or humor or, sometimes some triggering content that makes people angry. You don't take action until you feel something.
Right. It's emotion generating of some sort. Not always the happy part or the positive part. Sometimes it is anger. And that's what creatives do. They interpret complex, they interpret things into culture and help culture understand it better. Mm-hmm. And so creativity is not always, just drawing pictures, or I don't paint. I don't act, I'm not creative.
Yeah.
And so it is great to, talk about, what creativity is and, how somebody might be creative and then like, but I'm working in dental, what can I do as a creative person? So that's amazing. So you went from, this necessity of doing social content for somebody that moved you into what has now become your career.
Yeah.
And so how long ago was that?
So I was a full-time dental hygienist in 2016, and then started to slowly reduce my time in the office. That was so hard to let go of, the security of someone else signing your paychecks and feeling like, well, can I go all in? I need this. And I think the pandemic really taught us the security of having your own opportunities and being able to create your own opportunities. So I left full-time dental near the end of 2017.
Wow. So when was the first time that you really felt that, do you know what, this YouTube thing is something that I could do? When was that?
Yeah, I had I had a few local clients, and I had like a plumbing company, another dental office, an electrician, an optometrist, and I started making videos for them. And I also was making videos for myself because I just was having fun with it. And like, oh, if I have these frequently asked questions for my clients, what if I made fun tutorial videos on YouTube? That's what I did at the time. And the moment that I feel like that I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I can get paid to do this. I can do this for the rest of my life was when my plumbing client, which when they first approached me or I was first referred to them, I was like, plumbing? That sounds boring. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
Like make content about, oh, don't forget to turn off your faucet and a leaky faucet and whatever, replace your toilet. Like I had no idea. I had no idea what I was going to do to make that interesting. But I was like, well, if I'm going to create content, I want to create content that I would enjoy. So that became my mission with every client. Like how would I be attracted to this, even if it's something that's somewhat irrelevant to my life? Like I'm not thinking about plumbing on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And so what I did was I created a character for one of their service technicians. He just in like getting to know their team, there was this one service technician that was really good at doing accents and impersonations. And so we created this character for him called Plumber Dundee. And we would do videos of him being like underneath the sink, and he'd be like, I'm literally in the plumbing jungle right now. And like he was just really funny.
That's awesome.
And so we would play around with his character, and it was awesome. And so then those videos started to take off for them, and their call volume increased. People specifically asking, can I request Plumber Dundee for my service?
Oh my goodness.
That's where I was like, oh, this doesn't have to be just like step 1, step 2, step 3. Let me talk to you about this and click the link below and book a call with us. I wanted to make it entertaining. And so that was one example of how we create a character for the content. And then from there, it's always unique for every business. Is it a characterization? Is it a storyline? Is it just a different way? And even if you do step 1, step 2, step 3 tutorials, it's how we interlace these storylines and raising the stakes the way that in the movies there's these open loops that make you want to keep watching to the end.
Yeah, talk a little bit about for the content creator, for the plumber, that is like, wait, what do you mean loops?
Yeah.
What is that? What exactly do you mean by that? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So and I feel like this might ruin people when they're watching movies now, because you're going to recognize what they're doing to you. And this is one of my favorite things. I'm probably one of the worst people to watch movies with because I'm always commenting on things. Thankfully, Steven.
I'm the same way. I'm always trying to figure it out. It's like, oh, I know what happened. That thing happened right there because we're going to see
You're
that
planting
again.
a seed, right? Foreshadowing. Yeah. Oh, Chekhov's gun. Like there's such good little, and I feel like it changes how you watch and consume content, even social media content that you're like, why do I want to keep watching this? Or why do I want to click away, and what would make it better? So anyway, to go back to what are open loops, it's basically when they create a subtle question mark in your mind. And if you watch the beginning of any movie, and actually one that I show with my clients, I'll pull up the first 60 seconds of the movie Deadpool. And I don't know why I picked Deadpool. It just happened to be the movie that I was watching when I realized what this was.
Yeah.
So in the first 60 seconds of Deadpool, I'll play this 60-second clip, And it starts out with Deadpool sitting on the top of an overpass, his feet kind of dangling off the edge, and he's drawing a picture. And in the picture, it says something, blah, 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 I'm Francis. And then he looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and he says something about, I got these bad guys to fight and a face to fix. All right, here we go. Maximum effort. And he like drops down and like lands in the car at the perfect timing when these bad guys are driving through. All right. So then I asked my clients, my audience, what question marks came up in your mind, even subtle? Like, think back to what just happened. Okay, why is he sitting on top of an overpass? Why is he wearing this crazy costume? Who is he? On the paper, it said something about Francis. So who's Francis? Who are the bad guys? What's wrong with his face? He said he has a face to fix. So all of those tiny, subtle little question marks, those seeds are planted that open a loop. We have this unresolved problem that we need to understand what's happening. And sometimes they're really big open loops. Like, the end of a soap opera has this massive cliffhanger. Oh no, the bullet was streaming through the air, and did it hit them or did they move out in time? You got to stay tuned till next episode to find out. So sometimes the open loops, the cliffhangers will be like really big, or sometimes they're just really subtle. Like sometimes you'll see just in content, like, hey, I'm going to give you 5 tips. And the 5th one is the most important one, that if you don't do this, the first 4 won't even work. Okay, well, now I need to watch all 4 and the 5th one.
Right. And I think we realize that, and we see these open loops all the time. Like you mentioned, soap operas. I mean, Netflix binging. We do it because they leave it and they're like, wait, I can't leave this unresolved. I've got to figure out what happened. They were at this point of, drama, or this point of, something happened. I've got to figure out like what happened. And so you start the next episode and then it's resolved in the first 5 seconds. And you're like, oh, okay. But then you keep watching. And then of course another one happens and you're like, oh, now I've got to watch the next one. So,
well, they're opening so many loops that you like, it would be actually a really cool exercise for someone to like write down every open loop. Because another thing, if you go back to that Deadpool example, while he's fighting the bad guys, he also, you hear his, inner voice, his dialogue. And he says something about like the love of his life doesn't even know if he's still alive. So what are the open loops that we still haven't? We still don't know who Francis is. We still don't know what's wrong with his face. He says he has a face to fix. Why does the love of his life not know if he's alive? So there's multiple open loops, and some will get closed, but some are still open. And then they're opening new ones before they've closed those next ones, all leading up to this big grand finale. Another example I like to give is like a stand-up comedian. The stand-up comedian doesn't just have a good joke at the beginning and a good joke at the end. If that was it wouldn't be a good comedy set. They have to have good jokes that are like building the anticipation that they have these mini payoffs, bigger ha-has, leading to the big grand finale, hilarious grand payoff that you're like, oh, that's amazing. I want to see him again. Otherwise, you'd be throwing tomatoes at the stage.
That is so good.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important is, especially if you're getting into content creation, is to become more analytical about it. Like, why am I feeling this emotion right now? Why am I feeling this urge right now to do certain actions? And and just dissecting it and seeing like, why is this working on me the way it is? So, Deadpool does it amazingly. What about for the content creator that is like, well, how about for me? How would I do that for what I'm creating? What are some ways? And you shared one about the tips. What are some other ways that they can create things like open loops?
Yeah, and there's so many fun ways. It could also just be like how you lead into a topic. So, for example, I have a client that he's a doctor for osteoporosis, which again, for me, I'm like, how do you make that interesting? But there's always a way. Like even there's always a way that you can make this creative or funny or dramatic. So if maybe something that he's saying, I know there's a video that we were reviewing a script recently where he was talking about a supplement, a specific supplement that a lot of people are taking. And he, leading into this point of talking about it, okay, now we need to talk about this. And this is a common question I get because a lot of people are misusing it. The media is saying that this is great, but here's what you don't realize. And if you don't do this right, you might actually be putting yourself, backwards. Okay, well, that's an open loop because I'm like, well, what if I'm taking this supplement? Am I doing it wrong? Am I actually like wasting money and making myself worse? Okay, so it's just how you lead into that conversation. There can also be things like, okay, I'll give you a sneak peek at a video we haven't filmed yet, but we just started scripting. So I wanted to do a tutorial video about, I do this thing called Get It Done Day, which is how we prepare a month of content in a day. And so I wanted to share a little bit of my process, like here's what we do. But I don't want to just be a tutorial video because I would like to, stand out from other people online. And so, and I have a great videographer and editor that can help me get creative with the editing. So we were going to do this thing where my team, I don't know how, I can't do the technical of this, but they can do this thing where they can put two of me on screen. And and so we're going to have present me and future me. And future me is going to come and say, you forgot to post about Talk Like a Pirate Day 2 weeks in the future. Oh no, what are we going to do? And then before future me goes back into her time machine and goes back, she's like, oh wait, I have to tell you what happens 15 minutes from now. And then she gets sucked into the time machine. Oh, wow. And then we don't know. Whoop, open loop. And then I'm like, well, I guess we'll find out in 15 minutes. All right. In the meantime, let me share with you how I do the Get It Done Day.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. That is awesome.
I hope it turns out great. We haven't filmed it yet.
Yeah. But it's so effective. Open loops, we see them so often and we don't even realize it. And I think as for that person that is, watching this or listening to this and they're wondering about their marketing and especially video marketing, pay more attention to the content that you're consuming and that you're attracted to, because you'll find a lot of these things happening that you don't even realize it, but you're drawn in, you're called to act, you're called to watch the entire thing, and pay attention to what those are. With open loops are a great head smack for some people right now. So that's amazing. Good. What are some other things when it comes to content creation that people can be aware of or pay attention to?
Yeah. So open loops, raising the stakes is kind of hand in hand with open loops. It's like, how do we make it even more intriguing? So for example, I have a client that genius. He's basically, he has a mini bike company, and he's going head to head with like, Coleman is actually one of the leading mini bike companies, which were like, hey, stay in your camping supplies. Let us handle the mini bike industry. And what I compare him to is like, imagine if Nike was documenting how they built their business back when they started Nike. Like, he's building this incredible mini bike brand, and he's building it by documenting how they're doing it. So he's sharing like, I'm working with the welder and we're putting this together, and I tested it and then this happened. But what we're doing before we even film is we're orchestrating, we're strategically planning where we're going to insert, where we raise the stakes. And so raising the stakes is like, there's a bigger risk. There's a bigger risk. There's a bigger risk. So for example, you might see this in, let's take like a chick flick movie, for example. This girl falls in love with a boy. He doesn't answer his phone, and now she's not sure, do I wait for him or do I go back to my ex-boyfriend? And it's like, oh, the stakes are raised. Like, she has a big decision to make. Then turns out that he comes back, but his brother was dying and now he wants her to come with him. Oh no, but then this guy was interested. We're heightening the emotions. Okay, now they were about to go on this trip, but then he goes missing again. Turns out that he was in a plane crash. Oh no, what's going to happen? And then turns out, okay, so she goes back to her boyfriend and then she gets a call from him. Turns out he was in the plane crash, but he survived, but now he's hiding from the IRS. Oh no, like, see how we just keep raising the stakes, that there's always heightened drama. So for my client with the mini bike business, we were orchestrating how he's raising the stakes, that like, okay, he's left it. And this is true. Like, he's left his full-time job. He sold his house and took all of the money from his home to invest in this business. They only have this much time to be able to launch it, get it off the ground, be able to recoup some of their costs and actually sell these bikes and launch the business. And then in finding a manufacturer, they had a manufacturer that fell through. And like, this is all true. We look at what's happening in real life, and how do we demonstrate this, that real life is happening. And it's not just, hey, we made a bike, here it is. Because people have been along the journey from the beginning, they feel so invested in it. And because they saw it when it was at bottom, they are going to cheer louder when they win, because they feel like they were a part of it.
Right. Well, then I think that's powerful, because, all of our lives kind of have those as well. Like, you were in dentistry and suddenly, you're doing this and you're stepping out, and is it something that's going to work? And, you've got one client and you need more, and I think all of life is pretty much that. We hit these transition points, we hit these tension points, we hit these times in our lives when we're not sure what's going to happen next. And so I think, and that's storytelling, right? And so capturing it in your content is just basically being aware of that and then highlighting that in what you're producing and putting out there for everybody to digest and get to know you and get to see realness and see themselves maybe. And yeah, I've hit those tension points and that makes sense. And I want to see what happens because I kind of face the same kind of things.
Tension
so
is
I absolutely
totally,
love that.
you nailed it by saying tension. Tension is totally the name of the game, because think about if you're watching a movie. I'm watching Breaking Bad right now, and I am always tense watching that show. Oh my gosh, I can't, what's going to happen next? And there's open loops from like episodes ago that haven't been answered yet. And
Yeah.
And then, but if there's ever a moment where there isn't tension, it's like, depending on how good they've been at raising the stakes before, you can just almost feel that something's going to happen soon. And I think it is important to give the audience some emotional leeway, that you're not always, oh my gosh, tense. Like even in horror movies, if it was always, you'd be like, okay, I'm over this. I don't think you'd finish the movie. But yeah, you have to create that tension and do give them some breaks, but you still have some open loops. And but if there's too much lack of tension, however you word that, we're bored. And with attention spans these days, we can't afford to bore our audience because there's someone else or a cat video that will grab their attention instead.
Right. Well, and I think, and I've seen that happen in movies, and none come to mind right now. I should have written it down, but there have been movies when you don't know the point. Like there isn't that tension. There isn't that. Yeah. What is the hero about? You know, why are they doing this? Why do they care? Why does that even matter? And so I think, you know, you've got to be wise in the storytelling. And I think that's what makes a difference between a boring movie or a boring story or a boring video, is you've got to be thinking strategically about these things, about the tension, about the loops, about the turning points, about the things that the hero needs to achieve and accomplish, but make sure that you don't amp up the loop or the tension so much and then the payoff is like terrible, because I've seen that happen in movies as well, where it's like many open loops are opened up. Like I remember the TV show Lost. Did you ever watch Lost?
No, but I've heard so much about it. I should put it on my list.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I mean, the tension, and they're bringing in all these things. So I won't spoil it for you, but they're bringing in these.
Was the ending kind of a disappointment? I think I vaguely remember hearing that.
Yeah, the ending for a lot of people was like, man, you had so many open loops and you had so much tension and so much what ifs, and then you finished it off without clarity. It didn't feel like it was a proper close. Like you opened up too much stuff and you got too excited about the opening of stuff that you never close it all off properly, you know. And so I think that's important for even with, you know, creating YouTube content is, you know, don't create such a tension and then the payoff is like, seriously, that's all it was. It was just a dream, you know,
it was
type
Inception.
Thing. Right.
I'd be so curious to ask the creators of Lost, okay, now that it's been, you know, over a decade, I think, and you got that feedback, what would you change? Could you imagine if they had the opportunity, like, hey, 20 years later, we are going to re-release a new final episode of Lost?
Oh my goodness.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
I would love that
like
discussion.
The reboot remixed.
Right. Because movies have done that. You know, we realized we didn't do it well. You know, Deadpool, you mentioned Deadpool, you know, Deadpool in Wolverine, people were like, that was a terrible Deadpool. You closed his mouth and his mouth was part of what it was about. And, you know, he needs to be redeemed, you know, and so hopefully that'll happen with Lost. So with YouTube content, let's, you know, the business owner that is like, yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, I want to create YouTube content. You are the master at creating content. You've created viral stuff. You've created interesting stuff. When it comes to the average person creating content, what are some first steps for them to do? What are some things that they need to get in order before they start creating YouTube content?
Yeah, I like to reverse engineer the outcome. Like, what's the point of this? Kind of what are we talking about? Where is this going? Are we trying to generate leads? Are we trying to build a big brand, a movement? And sometimes it's all the above, but we also want to know, like, in each video, is there a call to action? Is that call to action leading to somehow that they're going to join the email list, that they're going to come to an event, that they're going to book a sales call, that they're going to go to the next video. I really think that actually the best call to action is the next video, which is like we strategically orchestrate that so that we make our content bingeable. We do have subtle calls like click the link below. I actually, created my shopping list for you. You can print it out below, but I'd like to make those more by the ways instead of commercial breaks because people pay extra money to skip commercial breaks.
Right.
So yeah, we want to reverse engineer the outcome of how is this either growing the audience or growing the email list, generating more sales or revenue. And then also like from that, okay, well then what are the breadcrumbs that are going to lead them to knowing, liking, trusting us? And so one of the things that I love to do when I create content, because I might have ideas. Okay, well, I want to make a video, for example, on how I plan a month worth of content in 30 days. But if I make the title "How to Plan a Month of Content in 30 Days," it's okay. Like that's a good title. But I want to make it. I always play this game in my mind: good, better, best. Like, what's the good title? What would make it better? What would make it the best? And sometimes I'll look at a title and think, what's the worst version of that? So this is one of the things I do in my presentations. I show two thumbnails side by side. One of them is a guy like pointing at a stack of money and, the usual mouth open Instagram or YouTube thumbnail. And it says, how to master your money mindset. It's like, okay, that's good. But then on the right side, I show one that is pretty much saying the same thing. But the title was, I pretended every night until I made $1 million. And the thumbnail is more like him, visualize. It's a cool, like kind of universe picture around him and money and his face. Like the way that it's edited is quite attractive. And which one would you rather watch? For me, I know that I have more curiosity in I have pretended every night until I made $1 million. I have more questions when I see that packaging versus how to master your money mindset. When I look at if the title and the thumbnail and just the way that you've presented it makes me assume, I don't have any reason to click. If I'm like, oh, they're probably going to tell me to budget and probably tell me to visualize and write down all the things that I want, and I got to save money. Like if I can guess what it's going to say, I'm not going to click on it.
Right.
But if it gives me question marks by looking at it, heck yeah, I'm going to click on it because I have this insatiable curiosity that now I need to click on it to close that loop and answer those questions for me. So it's finding how we're reverse engineering the outcome. What is this leading to? And then how do we create curiosity before they even click on the video? And then once they do click on the video, we have to deliver on that promise that it's not just, hey, my name is Marley, I'm a blah, blah, blah. This is why you're watching this video. Like they didn't come here to learn about you yet. They came here to get the promise of the video. And then from there, it's good storytelling. It's open loops. It's raising the stakes. And so when I plot out a video, I kind of do like the beginning and the end first because I want to create an intro that's entertaining and has a really good hook at the beginning, something that isn't obvious, that they're not just like, oh, okay, now she's going to tell me to budget. Like roll eyes. My mom told me that enough. Like I got it. And then, but some kind of open loop. So, I mean, I gave you the example of the time traveler one. I have to, oh my gosh, I have to tell you something that happens in 15 minutes. Well, what's going to, at the end of the video, this video is 15 minutes, we're going to find out. And then I can make the meat, like the meat and potatoes, the middle part of the video, which I'll still insert some open loops and maybe some humor or some emotion or, fun editing.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, what you said about the curiosity, creating the curiosity, because like you said, if the title says everything, then you're like, well, I can pretty much predict what that's going to be about. And that's where they just skip and go to the next one. And, for people like, Mr. Beast and Alex Hormozy and Gary Vee, I don't think people realize how much angst they probably put into the title and the cover image and the graphic and the testing that they do. What are some of your thoughts about them and the kind of content that they're putting out and why it's working for them? Why are they so big? And maybe there's somebody else that's bigger that I just don't know, but why are they so big right now on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, they've earned it. They are doing an amazing job with the content they're creating, the storytelling, but it's also interesting to see where they came from. Like Hormozy or Mr. Beast or any of these big names, like they didn't start that way. So it's really cool to see the progression that Hormozi, like some of his beginning videos, he was like in a closet. It was not great lighting, wearing the nose strip,
Yeah.
just talking almost like just nonchalant, like, hey, here's what I've done in my business and I'll share it with you today, which is also part of the shtick of what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
He's branded himself in a really cool way too. And like at the beginning, his tagline was like, I have nothing to sell you, which made him very trustworthy. But then when you also hear why he has nothing to sell you, because he's made so many bajillions of dollars, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy must know what he's talking about. And also he has this look that, I mean, he's buff, the mustache, the nose strip. It's like that's a hook right there. It's curious.
Right.
I'm curious
Right.
about it by watching it. And then Mr. Beast, like where he came from, he was just so obsessed, and like the obsession with the content is also what makes us so curious, because like you see this guy and you're like, this is a kid that's not going to give up, and this is a kid that's
Yeah.
obsessed with this, and almost similar to the like, I want to feel like I've been at the beginning with him. I want to see how he grows and be able to say that I was there from the beginning. And the fact
Yeah.
that he was like so generous in his content at the beginning, like, okay, if I get a sponsor, I'm just going to give all the money away to a homeless person, and knew how
Yeah.
to tug at the emotions and the heartstrings. And so now like all of that from the beginning has just evolved into, they have more resources, they have more storytelling ability, more bigger skills. But like a lot of the things that were in those foundational pieces are still what we see in this content. Mr. Beast is incredibly generous. He's often giving
Yeah.
away money, and we can vicariously live through that to feel like the emotion of the people receiving it, or also feel like
Right.
we're so proud of Mr. Beast for doing it. And yeah, they're so good at the storytelling and making it relatable or aspirational. I think that's like, those are two keys: being relatable, that they can
Right.
watch you, and regardless of if they have had a similar experience. Like I'll tell you an example for me. It's so strange to say that my audience grew a lot when I was going through a divorce. And
Mhm.
I shared my personal story that I was going through divorce, but I also at the same time was about to speak at Funnel Hacking Live on stage in front of 5,000 people, this like pinnacle moment in my career, while also my personal life is kind of falling apart. And I shared that story, and I talked about it, that like I didn't want to be Marley the divorce girl, but I hope that I could share this honestly to be a story of perseverance. And I had a lot of people that reached out to me, because not necessarily if they were going through divorces too, but that they've also been through hard things, that they felt like, how could I continue to go on when part of my life is falling apart? But we do it anyway, because if we stopped creating content, it wouldn't just impact us, it would impact all the people around us that need to hear from us. And helping people doesn't stop just because your life isn't perfect. No one's is.
Right.
So like being able to share those things that are relatable from whatever story that they might have, and then also like bringing people along the journey so that they see the before and the after picture, and they feel like they are right along with you, aspiring to become in the after picture with you.
Right. And I think that, a lot of what you shared, people, when they start creating content, I want to be the next Alex Hormozi. I want to be the next Mr. Beast. I want to be the next Gary Vee. And
We hear that
I
a
face
lot.
it when I'm, I face that when I'm doing branding. I want, the next Apple. I want, I want to create a logo like Apple. And it's like, yeah, you don't, because, Apple's logo, or, certain branding, or certain video content, there's a lot that was invested to get it to be what it is.
Mhm.
And so, or I want to go viral, I want to do a viral video. And I know you've created these, and I want to talk about, what are some things that, can you make a formula out of going viral, or is it just luck, pure luck? And so, but with what you shared about creating the content, it is about just creating content faithfully, telling a story, sharing a
Mhm.
story, creating the hooks and the tension and all of that. But sometimes it does take a little bit of time.
Mhm.
There are some people that might just luck into it, and they create something and suddenly they're viral. But for most part, it's just, you just create the work, you create the
Mhm.
content, you're faithful with putting it out there. And so, talk a little bit about, for the person that says, well, I want to go viral.
Mhm.
I want, make me go viral. Is that something that somebody can actually do?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's lots of different frameworks and formulas and things that we've observed that can repeatedly work. But there's also things that like we never expected I guess I wouldn't think that you would expect Charlie Bit My Finger to go viral and be so
Right. The
Charlie,
first one that everybody remembers.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how many silly home videos of me as a kid, if we popped them on the internet, would go viral. But it's like
Right.
just the right person saw it and shared it, and you know, the same thing could have gone just unnoticed.
Right.
But yeah, there's lots of viral frameworks, and even being able to like siphon off of other people's virality. Like, these the reaction videos that we see a lot, like,
Right.
which I also
Right.
think is really lazy content for me to watch you watching your phone and you nodding along. Yeah.
And pointing.
And oh my gosh, the pointing videos. Yeah. I have my little content pet peeves that I'm like, this is lazy content.
Yeah.
However, the reason why it works is because we're actually watching the original video that has already gone viral. So we're like, you're
Right.
siphoning views off of that. I prefer, because I do think that reaction videos can be good. I just don't want to watch 60 seconds of you watching a video. I don't mind if it's like 5 or 10 seconds and then the rest of the time is you talking and reacting to it. I think that that's a better way to do it. I also think it's cool if you don't have to necessarily like small picture in picture. It could be full screen or half screen and then goes to full screen you while there's little B-roll in the back of the other video. But yeah, there's like that's an example of siphoning virality or borrowing credibility
Right.
from something that's already viral. And the other thing is just like if we were going to orchestrate viral videos, which we have, we first look at a number of things, of course, like a lot of things we talked about today, the open loops, the stakes, what are we reverse engineering the outcome here? And then what emotions are we creating and how are we orchestrating that emotional roller coaster? You think about like in movies, Spielberg, Scorsese, like the greatest directors of all time, they aren't just like scripting the opening scene and then winging it. Like they know the exact
Right.
emotional journey that they're taking their audience on. And if you really want to create something viral, you also have the opportunity to like test it on your audience too. Like these blockbuster movies, they don't just make them and like put them out and the audience is seeing it for the first time. They have screenings. They get feedback
Right.
from multiple
Right.
people. Like Braveheart, they edited Braveheart so many times before it was finally what we see now that won so many awards. And even some of the first screenings, people were running out of the theater throwing up because it was so gruesome.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. So not that we need to do that with viral content, but just to say that like we know what works in terms of raising the stakes and creating open loops and tapping into emotion. And when we talk about tapping into emotion, if you want to make something viral, you have to create something that is going to be shareable, that people are compelled to share it with everybody, whether it's because it's something funny or maybe it's something that makes people angry. And my cancel culture documentary certainly did that. We had people that loved it and we had people that hated it. We got strong emotional reactions on both sides, which pushed it further than it would if it was just, meh, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, good video.
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And I think, trying to be the next Charlie Bit My Finger and trying to be the next, sketch is going viral with his, what up, brother, thing. And he went viral without planning on going viral, getting a lot of attention now and trying to I've seen people trying to do that stuff and think that's what it's going to take to be viral. But sometimes it is what you shared. It's about the storytelling. It's about paying attention to the tension, paying attention to the story, and putting something out there that's going to get people interested and it's going to relate to them. Now, you mentioned your documentary, so let's talk about that for a little bit. Pretty controversial in even just getting it out there, getting the story out there. So share a little bit about what you did about the launch of that for those that might not have heard about it.
Yeah. So it's a documentary. It's called I Got Myself Canceled and I Did It to Myself. And it's on my YouTube channel, so anyone can check it out there. And it recently was submitted for an Emmy. So that's exciting.
Right. Well done.
It's won some awards at film festivals, at the LA Documentary Film Festival and the Manhattan Film Festival. So big cities, big film festivals is really exciting. But when we created it, like that wasn't our intention. This kind of just showed up and of course excited for the opportunity. I wanted to create, before this, I was making YouTube content that was, I was just kind of bored of it. I was like, how do I do something more unique more than just the tutorials, more than maybe some skit comedy laced in with marketing and business content. And so I was like, what if we did a documentary where I always wanted to make something that was cinematic. And so when we were ideating with my team, we were like, well, what's like the most controversial topic right now that we could speak to? Cancel culture.
Right.
It's everywhere. And we also wanted to be a demonstration of disruptive content. And when I say disruptive doesn't have to mean like offensive. It just means, that grabs attention. And if you think of like people in history that have been disruptive, Jesus, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, I just want to preface that because sometimes people hear that and think like, well, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. That's not what it has to be. But we want
breaking people out of their patterns of life.
Yes. Yeah. It's a strong emotional hook, regardless of what the topic is, and something that people can stand behind and feel like they're part of a movement or taking a stand on an opinion. So we came up with this idea to create a documentary on cancel culture, but instead of just doing like interviews and let's talk to this person that got canceled and here's some opinions, we turned it into a social experiment where I attempted to get myself canceled. And I don't know if I should give it away because I would love for people to watch it. But you have to watch all the way to the end because there's a plot twist right at the end. And what's important to know is that like this actually played out in real time. So there's an audience of people that saw it happen live, and the audience of people that see it that watch the documentary, now a year later, it was actually a year ago this month, it's interesting for both sides to see. And it was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was actually very anxiety producing to live it because here I am getting canceled publicly. My Facebook, my social media, my family's phones are blowing up. And I had to be like, you just can't say anything. You just can't. We have to be quiet. We have to play this out. And then when we finally announced, because the whole audience is like, what is going on? Just to kind of tease, like, it looked like I got arrested.
Oh my goodness.
And I actually didn't tell my mom before it came out.
Oh, wow.
And then we announced, like, we kind of went live to share the story of what really happened. I say that in quotations.
Yeah.
And said, hey, I wasn't arrested. This was a social experiment for cancel culture, and we've released a documentary. It's now live on YouTube. You can go watch it to see what really happened. And we had mixed responses on both sides. There were some people that thought, oh my gosh, this was the best marketing campaign I have ever seen. You spoke to this topic in a way that's so experiential, and this changes how I look at cancel culture. This changes how I act towards people or how I perceive people acting towards me. This needs to be on, we got lots of great publicity for it. There were also people though that were like, you emotionally manipulated us. How dare you? This was so offensive. You played with our emotions. And when in the announcement where we shared, like, here's what happened, we prefaced it with that, like, just so you know, the media is constantly toying with your emotions. However, they're not pulling back the curtain to show you here's how it's done. So what we did in this is showed you what was happening so that either you can be armed with it so you can protect yourself in the future, or perhaps you can take some lessons from this so that you can use these powers for good. And
that was a pretty bold thing. Wow.
Yeah.
So now, we talked about, looking back at movies that lost, or TV shows that did certain things, and looking back, what would they have done differently? What would you have done differently with this? Anything? Did this do what it was supposed to do? Or
yeah, I mean, it definitely, it got people talking, and we wanted people to be talking, and we knew that we were going to get people that didn't like it. We knew that we were going to have people that hated it. And I mean, we had people that even made their own YouTube videos bashing it and saying this is awful and calling me a grifter or whatever that means. And people wrote blogs about it saying that they hated it. But we also had, I got lots of speaking engagements and podcast interviews and people that wanted me to create documentary. We actually call it a docu-stunt, a documentary publicity stunt. And so now, like, that's a whole new category of video. We've also talked to some streaming platforms about like licensing it or creating a whole new show with it to create more docu-stunts. So there's some cool opportunities that have come from it. And the thing is, like, whether you get good or positive reviews on it, you're never going to get everyone that loves something. What's that quote? Unless you're a taco. But it was so exciting to do. It was, I mean, I was a wreck for a few days because it was in the moment, I had no idea how I was going to play out. Like when these rumors were swirling about me online, and then we added onto it, which there's a documentary on my YouTube channel, and then there's also a behind the scenes of it. It's how we fabricated the scandal, showing like, okay, we leaked this picture of my mugshot. I'm giving away a little bit of details. Hopefully people still go watch it. We leaked my mugshot. And then when it actually started, some of the attention started turning to cancel the person that leaked it. And so then we had to orchestrate something that I did worse to bring the attention back onto me, because we didn't want this guy to get canceled. Dan Henry was a part of it, he was the perfect person to do it, because he's known for being, polarizing and a little controversial.
Right.
But it was, I mean, we got what we wanted and then some. But I was going to say, like, while doing it, there was the risk that, like, what if people hate it and I actually get canceled for real? What if people don't see the conclusion and think that I actually was arrested? And because the mugshot said like battery, aggravated assaults, like that's pretty risky to put out about yourself and then to be like, just kidding, it's not true.
Yeah. Well, and with something like that, I mean, that is so risky. Like you don't know if it's going to resolve the way you want it to resolve.
Right.
I mean, something else could have happened in the news that would have taken attention away from you. And then suddenly that loop is not closed, but people have just assumed that that's what was happening.
Yeah. And then we're like, hey, wait, no, come back. Let me tell you this.
Yeah. I need your attention again.
We'd have to create a whole new campaign.
Right. So is that something that that you want to do more of? You mentioned, from the very beginning, you mentioned about Canada, Hollywood, wanting to do these things. Now that you've got a taste of doing documentaries, is that something you're wanting to do more of?
Yeah. I'm actually going to LA next week on Monday. And there for the whole week. And I'm going to be meeting with agents and casting directors and producers. And I have a few different ideas for shows, I actually have three different ideas for shows that I have proposals written out for, and want to meet with the right people and just network. And I know that my skills that I have from business, marketing, entrepreneurship, I think that's given me skills that I can kind of enter into this space with, I think, a new opportunity. I've just been studying a lot of how actors get their feet off the ground in that space. And I think me coming in with an entrepreneurship angle might be a cool way to enter Hollywood.
That's amazing. And it all started off with you memorizing the national anthem in Canada. That's so awesome. Now talk a little bit, so you're going to Hollywood, you're going to LA. Talk a little bit about marketing and Hollywood marketing. What is Hollywood marketing? And tell me a little bit about that.
It's so funny. Us coming from online content and marketing and funnels and stuff, like, we have content everywhere, and we have all of our contact information on our website. If you want to get in touch with me, like, here's all my platforms, here's my email. In Hollywood, it's like they have their website and they have like a logo on the website. And if you want to contact me, figure it out. Like, it's just not open out there. So I have to be a little bit of a private investigator to find people's contact information. And even then, people that do, they're getting so many emails all the time of people trying to pitch them. So you got to cut through the noise. So maybe I'll have to do a docu-stunt to, capture people's attention in Hollywood, get myself canceled in Hollywood or something. And so, it's a lot of networking, a lot of just like who you know and who they can introduce you to, which I also think business has prepared me for, that I'm not showing up just like, hey, here's my resume. Consider letting me audition. It's like, here's my audience, here's my brand, here's how I know how to market content, and perhaps that can be of value to you. And then also coming with like these proposals that I'm like, I know that we could make money with this. Let's make money together. Not just, please give me an opportunity. Let's collaborate.
That is so exciting. Well, I hope all goes well with that.
Thank
because that sounds pretty amazing. And with the YouTube creation, you've created a lot of content, and you still help people. And I want to talk about how you help people as well. That might be like, I know I need to get on YouTube. YouTube's super big. It's one of the largest search engines. I think is it first or second now? I think it might be the second largest.
Google's the first, and YouTube is owned by Google. So
Yeah. And so people are going there to find information, to find training, to find learning, to spend time there. And so, you know, your strengths or what you've been doing, you know, since leaving the dentist office has been working with YouTube. For the person that wants to also be there, you know, that wants to create the content, what are some things that they can do to help them start building an audience? What are some important things that they need to consider when it comes to building that audience to get attention?
Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to say a similar answer of like reverse engineering the outcome of when we're building an audience, what's the point of that? Whether it's what's the point of this video? What are we leading them to? What's the point of building this movement? And where do we want the audience to go with this? If you think about, if you look at, we talked about Hermosi, we talked about Mr. Beast, like what's he trying to do? What are they both trying to do for their audiences? What movement are they trying to create? Mr. Beast is someone that he's been he has his Mr. Beast philanthropy channel. And so hopefully he's creating a movement of, especially he does speak to a lot of younger people that are also going to want to be creative. A lot of kids now, what do they want to be when they grow up? YouTubers, Mr. Beast.
Right.
And then what are you going to do with that money? Like, can you get rich and give back? How can you make money by doing something creative that's also, you make money by being generous to other people? So I think that's a really cool movement that he's creating and building his audience. Alex Hermosi from the beginning saying, I have nothing to sell you, but I do invest in businesses up to here. So if you like, my intention is to help you to build your business. And then at some point, maybe I can invest in it. We know that his movement is building the most incredible free online business education in the world. And so think about the ripple effect that will create, that the people that feel like that he gave so generously to them, maybe they will then give so generously to whatever business and audience that they serve. So when you're creating your audience, think like, what's the thing that I want people to know me for? The thing that I came into their life and changed. So for me, I think that mine is about creating content that is just a genuine expression of who you are, that from that you are fulfilled in the art that you create, and you help fulfill other people, that you help them to feel things, because people don't take action until they feel some kind of emotion.
Right.
And I also personally hope that in me sharing my stories of me going after crazy dreams, which I didn't really give myself permission to actually admit to myself that I wanted until my late 20s, even at age 30, that people also see, okay, I can make dreams come true too. And don't have to feel ashamed of saying I want to make movies in Hollywood. Okay, I'm going to make movies in Hollywood, and come along for the ride with me. It doesn't happen to everyone, but I'm not going to give up. And I hope that whatever your dream is, you don't give up. So yeah, thinking about the movement around your message.
That's amazing. So for the person that is where you once were, what would you tell them? What would you encourage them with?
Going back to the dream, I didn't give myself permission to go fully after a dream, because I thought that I wasn't allowed to. That doesn't happen to most people. They're not a lot of people make it in Hollywood. Not a lot of people make it in business, in entrepreneurship. But it's one of the, our core values in our companies. It's this statement is, it's not a matter of if it will happen. It's a matter of if you will keep at it until it does. And I really believe that if you want something and you don't give up, it will happen. We don't have to know exactly how, but if you know that that's what you want, and then you just lean into whatever those superpowers are, which for me, I've discovered about myself over time, is networking, just meeting people and being able to, genuinely build a relationship with them and contribute to each other's lives. And then content, the stories that I tell that allow me to connect with more people, and then also allow people to get to know who I am. And then the caveat or the disclaimer on that is if people don't like it, that doesn't change anything.
Right. Man, that's so awesome and so encouraging. And you've shared so much value today. And I think for the person that is interested in creating content, hopefully they took notes, because you've shared so much good stuff. And so for somebody that is interested in YouTube content, they're they've realized that people have said, YouTube is the place to be. How do they get a hold of you? How did they become a part of your world?
Well, I don't have a website like in Hollywood where there's no information on it. Really everywhere. Would love for you to check me out on YouTube. Look up Marley Jaxx. Instagram is Marley Jaxx. And I respond to all my DMs personally. Like there's no assistant or VA in there. Like you can reach out to me on Instagram. My email, marley@marleyjaxx.com. Or check out chiefcontentofficer.co, not .com, .co. And that's how we support people. We give people templates every month to kind of be like we install ourselves as a chief content officer in their business.
And so who would be the ideal person that you could help that should reach out to you?
Yeah. Business owners, entrepreneurs, people that want to monetize content online, whether you have a creator business where you're monetizing your influence, or you have an online business where you sell a product, a service, a coaching or course. And in our programs, we have templates for all kind, and we call it our creator pack. We have a framework that is the letters of creator, and that's the content that we help you put out every month. And then we do our monthly Get It Done Day, where we help you to plan out your content every month too.
That is so good. Well, Marley, thank you so much for being on today. This has been amazing and absolutely loved it. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your dreams, your visions, and also some of the crazy stuff that you've done along the way. And so thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Headsmack Podcast. We've shared some candid stories and life-changing ideas. And now it's your time to act. First, take bold action on just one idea and see how your life can radically change. Secondly, whatever platform you're listening to this on, please rate it, share it, and leave a comment. Let us know where this episode impacted you. I appreciate you giving me your time, and don't forget to join us for our next Misfit conversation.